Welcome to the Outside the Business Boxes podcast, where we're talking about how to ignite your business today for the future using systems for everything you do in your business to make your life, your employees' lives, and your customers' lives easier for you to ultimately enjoy your business and, of course, make more money. I'm your host, Chad Murray. Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming to my Outside the Business podcast. I am your host, Chad Murray, and today I flew to Nashville this weekend to see Mark Stoner and Ashbuster's Chimney. I mean, one of the very largest chimney companies here, but I don't care about that. I came here because of Mark, and I have had this great relationships that sparked and kindled up since we met each other probably 4 or 5 months ago, and it's just been blossoming into some fun learning and just working together a little bit that we're doing now. And so we decided to take the afternoon and do his podcast, do mine, and we had a blast. So I just wanted to let everybody see how it worked out and go. And, you got about an hour. This is a long one. A lot of stuff in there. We talk about business. We talk a little about, get into the chimney world a little bit, safety. And then we bring it back to business at the end. So if you're not a chimney person, please go through all the safety stuff and get to where we're talking about business again, because it doesn't matter what service business you're in. We know business, and we've really developed in how to help people in business, no matter what their business is. And so, with no further ado, I'll turn it over to us. Hey, thanks, Mark. We got Mark Stoner here, which we just talked about in the intro here. He owns Ashbuster's Chimney Sweep in Nashville, Tennessee. We become good buddies. I'm here visiting him in Nashville now. We just did his podcast, which was awesome. We're just going to kind of do a continuation of just talking, but instead of making it about me, now it's his turn to make it about him. So
thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like we talked about over in your podcast, it was all about me a little bit. Let's talk about you. So, I mean, you've been in business now for how long?
Gosh, 36 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And here's the funny thing is, as we get talking about it, we've struck up a very fast, fun friendship because we feel like we're almost the same person in two different bodies. Do we not?
Yeah, it's weird when you start to tell some stories that I've experienced almost something exactly the same. And we're actually sitting next to each other, so it's hard not to look over at him. But we have very similar life experiences in business and personal things that have happened. It's a little bit uncanny.
It's almost the same story on two different timelines. It's been so fun. And so, he started up Ashbuster's that long ago, and like me, kind of mulled around the industry. Mm-hmm. Kind of successful, but then lost it all or whatever. Yeah. Tell that story a little bit.
So for 17 years, I was a one-person operation. I really did not realize that you could do much with this business. I was a musician. I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, where we are now, because I wanted to be famous playing drums, not being a chimney sweep. In fact, I was kind of embarrassed to tell people I was a chimney sweep. I really wanted to say I was a professional musician and I had a side business. And so I kind of hid it. But, the chimney business just kept working, and music was a tough life, especially when I had little kids. And so, I, for 17 years, was working by myself, and a bad thing happened to me. Nobody in this industry knew me either. Like you, I was kind of hidden from everything. I fell off of a roof. I got seriously injured, and I decided to get out of the business in 2002, 2003. And I learned a really hard business lesson that my business, my one-man operation, was basically worthless.
Yeah.
In my mind, I thought I had built an operation worth a lot of money. And I learned the really bad business lesson that nobody wanted to buy my job that I built for myself.
Well, you had an ugly baby nobody wanted, right?
I had an ugly baby. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful baby. What are you talking about, Chad?
Yeah.
But nobody wanted that kind of work.
Yeah.
It didn't matter how much my phone rang. It didn't matter how valuable my equipment was, which it wasn't worth anything. Nobody wanted it. And I had made a major mistake in my life where I'd worked 17 years thinking I'm building a real valuable business that I could retire from. And I got offered $10,000.
Yeah. We all did. I got evaluated a long time ago too. And at that time I was probably doing, I don't know, 1.5 million. I'm like, 1x, right? I'm going to get that, or 1.5,
yep.
right? I'm going to get 2 million. That's all I need for the rest of my life. $300,000.
Correct.
And it's like, of course, that first guy you just hate that. That guy's wrong.
Correct.
And so it's nice that we're getting this, because we've talked about this before on other things we've done. Don't get your hopes up if all you have is a truck and a ladder and some sweep stuff.
Well, we were just going over that on Facebook. Yeah. Last week, there was a guy, how do I evaluate my little business?
Yep.
And again, this is what slapped me in the face. There were some people up there saying 3 to 4 times gross. I'm like, what?
You haven't sold your business, have you?
Right. No one is going to pay that for a chimney sweep business.
Exactly.
But that being said, the next step, when I got hit in the face with a low evaluation, I said, you know what? I'm an expert at this. I'm going to learn how to run a business instead of just building a job and doing all the work myself. I'm going to learn. I didn't have any idea how to be a good leader. I didn't know my finance numbers. I had no systems. The system was Mark Stoner. Mark Stoner was the system, and that's a problem when you try to grow. And so since 2003, we grew a lot, and we're one of the larger chimney companies now in the U.S., but, in 2008, I had actually crashed it because in that growth period of, hey, I'm going to now grow it, I didn't know so many things that I then crashed the business and was the worst chimney company in the United States at the time. And then I just, it's just been a process of learning how to get better and better and meeting people, like I recently met you, but met some really key people along the way, some mentors, some coaches that helped me. And, that's why we're talking, because I'm a big believer in coaching and mentorship. And so here we are today. We're both sitting in my house in Nashville, having a great time, drinking coffee and drinking water.
Yeah, exactly. And last night had a little extra of that. So but when I advertise and I talk to people, I have this little saying. It's like, stop building a crappy business.
Yeah.
Because you are, unless you figure it out. And you can go for, like you did, 17 years. Yeah. In my terminology, built a crappy business.
Well, I lived in the business was in my house.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it could be any bigger. So one of the things I talk about with a lot of people is lack of vision. People don't think big enough. They think it's got to be this, or a little bit bigger is better.
Yep.
That's almost never the case.
Well, and not that I can't learn too. So, I've been introduced to Ray.
Yeah, and my CFO.
And I'm a numbers guy. I thought I knew numbers.
Yeah.
And Ray, I had a meeting with Ray yesterday, and he's like, "Are you doing 15%?" And I said, "I don't know." Yeah. I said, "I know I run a good business, and I'm one of the few chimney companies that last year actually had a negative number, more due to the first quarter. But after that." So we called up my, CFO David, he's really a bookkeeper and my assistant. He's awesome what he does, but we don't know the numbers to get it to where we're doing this, in my mind, imaginary 15% thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I start talking to Ray, and he's like, well, what'd you do? And I know my numbers enough to tell him what I did gross. This is what I did gross, blah, blah, blah. And I was actually shocked we did a little less than I thought we did last year. And then we got David on the phone, and we started crunching the last 5 years' numbers just to give him an idea of what we run. And we had a 9% in 19. We did 9% in 1919 or 2019. And it's like, okay. And Ray was kind of like, oh, okay,
yeah,
cool. Of course, we were -5 last year, but we were at 9% in 19. And then we goes, what's 18? 2.
Yeah.
And then we did 4.5 the year before.
Well, he helped me understand that too, because I was always hovering around 5 to 7. But I was also throwing what I paid myself into that 5 to 7. He's like, no, we need to make 15 after paying you, after paying all admin, after doing everything that we do. Then you need to have 15% on your taxes. And I'm like, my gosh, that's a lot of money. I don't think we can get there. What he did for us, and I was telling you about it yesterday, he took 40 areas and got a 0.5%, got up 1%. And he got it so that we cut vendor costs, we cut overtime, certain costs. We raised prices. We did all these things in all these little areas to end up with 15 to 20% after paying everybody. And that's an amazing thing, and I couldn't do it myself because, I'm like you. I'm not a numbers guy. I mean,
sales and marketing,
numbers.
baby. That's how you drive your business.
That's me.
Sales and marketing. More sales. Sales solves everything, right?
Yeah, it covers up a lot of sins. It covers up a lot. You can sell a lot, but Ray. So we have a good relationship because Ray's like, hey, I can't market like you. I can't sell like you. I need guys like you to go out and sell, and then let me fix the numbers as you guys go work, and that's a good team.
And it's something. I mean, if you're one of my clients, you just got bumped because we're learning Ray's coming out of masters. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's fractional, right?
No, he's full time with me now, but he works fractional for other companies.
Okay, so he's fractional coming on with me. I get to steal him, yay! Yeah. And so, and I know a couple of the people that I work with that work with him. So he's new to me. I've known about him. So here's what's crazy about this story. I didn't even know what fractional coaching was or CFO stuff until the PBCA that I'm a part of. My organization was talking about it at the last couple of conventions. And so I actually went to David and my management team and said, we need this. And everybody was on board. Yeah, we need this. Of course, they're busy doing their stuff, but I'm like, no, we really need this. Yeah. I really need to dig on these numbers to know more about my numbers to get and let's face it, for like I said, we were negative 5% last year. I don't want to have a negative 5% again. Right. I mean, that you can't run a business like that. And of course, we're not that this year, but I want to know more, and especially if I want to be a coach, I want to be able to help my people the best I can. Right. I'm not a financial guy. Right. And they're not hiring me to be a financial guy. I'm still their sales and marketing and mindset and stuff like that. So what in my toolbox can I have? And then I found out more about Ray, and found out about him on Wednesday. Here we are on Saturday, and I have already got Ray coming on board.
Well, I think that's just good business. What we really have to look for, and your listeners look for, is your weaknesses and understand what they are. You don't need to be the guru for everything. There is a guru out there that's much better than you will ever be. Right. Get that person on your team. Get that coach on your team. Get that high-level person on your team so you stay focused. And a couple weeks ago, I did a podcast on who, not how. A lot of entrepreneurs get hung up on how am I going to do this? How am I, when say you coach them and you show them something to do, they'll think, I've already got enough to do. So one good way to think about it is not necessarily what more can you do, but who can you get on your team to help or bring in from the outside to help. And that's exactly what Ray and other people like that are. They can come in. And it's tough. I mean, they're not going to tell you stuff you want to hear.
No, it's painful. It can be. Yeah.
We bought, Alan Rush bought Ray a domain, raydon'tplay.com. And it's in Ray Don't Play, and he's just dry as heck. And he just, a friend of mine, Chuck Hall, came over with his CFO, and Ray kind of got into it, and Chuck's looking at his CFO going, hey, what about this? What about that? And so, but that's good, right? As business owners, we're not here to be, we want to be friends, but we also want to run the best business we can.
It's business, right? It's just business. And it's what's so funny about this. So as a coach, I get told and I advertise this, that I'm free. And I'm sitting there talking to Ray yesterday, and he didn't pitch me. I said, we got to the point where, it was kind of uncomfortable silence. And I go, I'm ready, Ray. And we didn't even talk about money. And I looked at him, I go, I don't care what you cost. If you do your job, I know you're free. Because as a coach, I know I'm free when I work with you, right? That's right. And so he just goes, Oh, so I don't have to go through that and tell you how I'm free? You know him. So he's an accountant type. Right. He is that dry matter of fact, and if it hurts, it hurts. And, and I love the fact that he's full time for you, so he doesn't need to work for me.
He doesn't. And I've seen him work with several other companies, and even before he came to work for me, he worked for a really big roofing and window and siding company, and he still does. So he's been fractional for other companies, but he needed to move back to Nashville, and I got lucky enough that he needed to move here, and I said, I need a full-time guy, because I had a fractional guy, but we kind of outgrew that guy too. We need somebody boots on the ground putting these things in place, and so we got him on. And just so you know, we brought him on with a good salary, but also an upside budget. The more profitable we got, the better his income became. So I don't want to stifle growth to just be profitable, because, I could cut my marketing budget and cut a bunch of people's money and all of a sudden have a bunch of money.
Right.
I don't want to. I want to grow responsibly. And it's a balance between Kent, who's my CFO or COO, growth, and Ray, who's like, hey, slow down the growth, guys, because we got to have so much money in the bank. And that balance in your company, in my company, has been great, because I will put all the chips on the table all the time.
Oh yeah.
And I don't mind if I'm eating sardines next week. I'm going for it. But that's not necessarily responsible when you got a lot of people that need this business to work.
Exactly. It's funny as we sit here and talk about pain, right? And when you go to hire someone that's gonna give you pain, and you got to go through it. Like, I know I got Ray coming in, and you keep saying to me, you're going to get pain. You're going to get pain. I'm ready for it. I mean, I'm ready to take the pain and listen. And that's, I think that a lot of people listening, you're at that point where you're not ready for pain. And that's why you don't hire someone.
Right.
And you want to bring it back to, it's not an advertisement here, guys. You want to make your life better. You got to find someone to help you do it.
Ray has this saying, and he's going to tell you, he's going to say, are you aware? I've learned that when he says, are you aware? I'm not aware.
Yeah.
That's what's getting ready to happen. Are you aware, Mark, that? And then here comes the pain.
No.
But he said, man, I feel like you don't like me. I said, Ray, I need you. I might not like you, brother. I might not like the information. It's not personal, but I need you because that's not my thing. You need me and I need you.
Yeah. And so, kind of shift a little bit here, going back to your story a little bit. So, I mean, how transparent are you with Ashbusters? Like, where are you at? What are you doing a year?
We're right at, almost at 10 million.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And you were at 2008 start over.
2008, I had hit $1 million in 2007. I was 1.1, and in 2008, I hit 1.1, but I spent 1.3. So I was $200,000 in the hole. And at the time, right after that, I had to I had 17 employees. I had to lay everybody off, start over with me and my 14-year-old son, and we went back to $250,000 that year. Now later, it wasn't a full year before I could start building people back or bringing some key people back in, but I went completely broke. I hadn't paid myself in 6 months. I hadn't paid my rent. I hadn't paid anybody, and I didn't have a Ray in my life. I just had me. My org chart looked like this: Mark and 17 people under Mark.
Yeah.
Like every single person could talk to Mark at any point. At the time we had Nextel, and everybody could beat me, and that phone going off all day long, from my paycheck's wrong to Miss Smith is mad to the parts are broken to every single thing, to the marketing calls. Every single thing was going at me, and I built a business that I hated. Absolutely couldn't stand. I literally would drive up to my shop and get sick to my stomach, getting ready to walk in that door, because it felt like I had 100 arrows flying right at me as soon as I walked in. So who wants to do that over and over? So that was a big lesson, that I built this business. And when I crashed it, I looked in the mirror and I said, dude, this is your fault. You built this. You can't blame it on anybody. You can't blame it on your divorce a few years ago. You can't blame it on bad employees. You can't blame, and some of them were doing drugs and all kinds of bad stuff. it's my fault completely. And if you're in business, your business is your fault too. Good and bad, it's 100% you. And all the bad is either, especially if it's employees, you either hired them or failed to get rid of them. And it's all you. And so the sooner you can feel it and do it, the faster you can make a better business.
It's one of the hardest things to coach too.
Yeah.
I don't typically like to tell people to fire people, but there are times if I have to keep talking to you about it, I will just finally, I have a limit.
Yeah.
and Chad Murray comes out, not Coach Chad anymore, and it's like, just fire him.
Sergeant
Get
Chad.
rid of him. Yeah, Sergeant, you know that story.
Yeah.
Sergeant Chad, it's like, just get rid of him. I can't handle this anymore. And eventually they do. And so
how many times you told them to fire somebody, they finally did, and they're like, oh man, everybody's happy.
Hugs.
Yeah.
It's like their call center or the people working with them are just, they're elated.
Right.
And it's like, we couldn't work without them. And now, wow, things are better without them.
You build this thing in your brain that you can't. I just lost some key people that I was fighting for. Other people in my business saying, "No, let them go, let them go." I'm like, "Oh no, they've been legacy employees. They've been with me for 15 years. I owe it to them." Oh my gosh, they left on their own accord because, as I was telling you, I brought in high level people, and it sometimes upsets the apple cart.
Yep.
I wasn't trying to upset the apple cart, but when it did happen, we got better.
So if you're listening and you're one of my clients and you know who you are, the world's not over. Your business isn't going to tank. That's what everyone thinks. My business cannot run without them.
Yeah.
And my story is like this. This is what I tell everybody. I left my business. It's doubled its business since I left.
Right.
Without me. Now I still coach them, but I'm not there. And I'm the best salesman they ever had, and yet I still make a living not being there. Mm-hmm. And so when you get people to start thinking that, what do you mean you left? I don't work there. I'm not there. I don't operate it. I've trained my systems and given it to people. And yeah, we have turnover at times and stuff to get the right people and stuff, but it doesn't, if you build the business right, you get the key people to run the systems, and the systems work themselves out if you make sure that the systems are running. And so... yeah,
the business you want to own is a business that doesn't need you. I mean, that's the best business to own, really. And your business doesn't need you, yet they do need you, but they don't need you. You don't have all the keys to the castle. You've made all the keys and you've given them out to the people, and then you can just watch the castle being built and saying, hey, we need to watch this or do this. But they don't need you to get any problem solved pretty much, or anything purchased or people paid or problems, the customer's taken care of. And that becomes a business you really enjoy. But most people have such a control freak factor, they can't do it.
It's funny when I do take someone on, and the people that work with me that finally broken down to write a check to get help, they know that. Mm-hmm. But now the work starts, right? You have to start giving some things up. And a lot of times they're in a truck. I'd say 80% of my clients that start off with me, they're still in a truck. Mm-hmm. Not 100%, but they're still out there doing stuff. And then that other 20%, they're pointing. So they're still out there doing this. And it's like, you don't have that I call it the 30,000 view of your business. Mm-hmm. 30,000 foot high view, looking down at everything. And like you said, when you're building that org chart where it's you and then everybody, I mean, it's such a pain. I've been there. That's a painful business. And now I didn't go to I kind of did, but I kind of did the same thing 17 years ago where I got my appendix lost and then, we ended up having to restart over at that time. And I just made it at that point where I'm not building a business that relies on me.
Yep.
And we did it. I mean, I left my company at $2 million. I mean, so you want to talk, people are like, well, you got to be $4 or $5 million before you even think about it. I did. Yeah. I left it like 2.1.
Right.
And at COVID last year, I mean, I'm transparent. I thought we did 3.3 last year as a bad year. And talking to Ray, we did 2.9. And I was like, what? And we called David up. I'm telling Ray 3.2, you know, and I'm all happy about having a bad year at 3.2. And we call up David. He's like 2.9. I'm like, what? So I didn't even know my own number.
Well, it still makes you one of the biggest chimney companies in the country at that size. But it doesn't matter what size you are on the big number. It matters what you drop to the bottom. Because there's some I've dealt with companies that were 3 and 4 million and couldn't make payroll. We're worried to make payroll the next week.
Yeah.
So you can make a ton of money and spend it all. You can make $1 billion and go broke. So it really matters. And Ray and other people will help you drop that money to the bottom line, which at the end of the day helps you as a business owner, helps your community. It depends on what you want to do with the money. But the idea is to make a profit, and that's not a dirty word, right?
It's stabilization first.
Yeah.
You got to get them stable financially, right? So once I get them stable financially, then, you know, we start working on what we call the nut and getting your money to a certain point. A lot of people don't get it. You know, when you're in a seasonal business, even though we're busy all year round, but not crazy busy like we are in the fall, we're talking chimneys now, is a lot of these companies have that model of they bank just during the fall and try to live off the rest of it all summer, right, in spring. And that model sucks. That model is hard to live. You've got to be able to bank enough and keep making enough money through the year to where it's not the cliff.
You can't scale.
The cliff.
It's really hard to scale because you lose so many people in those downtimes.
Yeah.
And then when the busy time hits, you can't get enough people. So therefore you stay in this kind of the same up, down. It's a tough life.
It is. And I'm not going to lie, at Masters, we're always trying to find 3 or 4 more trucks to train, and we train them on the easy stuff, you know, and I hate that model, and we have done close to 5 million, and I will tell, the more money it is, a little easier to manage, to do that, to get the right people, and then you can keep them longer. So I mean, we sustain, I think, 6 install trucks all year round, and then we bust up to 10 to maybe 12 depending on the year. And then we have our support and our sheet metal shop and all that. We don't cut support and sheet metal shop. We only cut the helpers. And we keep all of our. So I have right now at Masters, I think we have 12 lead techs.
Right.
We have like only 3 helpers right now. So we built that up, which is just finding helpers is easy.
Right.
Easier. So we have all this good lead tech stuff now, and I don't think we made it through COVID and we didn't lose any lead techs. So we went through pretty much 3 seasonal, like 2.5 years of 3 seasons that we went through, and everyone was good, we kept. So we can throw them in a truck right now and put anyone who can just at least mix mortar and the easy stuff. And that's how we've really grown to keep stuff. Now we're still trying to figure out we have a little cliff. Yeah. That cliff ain't as big anymore. Yeah. You know, we break our leg, we don't die.
We do too. We have the same thing. We have a busier season, and we have a time where we call it watering down the soup. Sometimes you got to water down the soup to get it around. We tried to do less and less. That Ray pointed out several things, and we added an HVAC division. I think you said you added a new division yourself.
Air ducts, yeah.
Air ducts. And so we're trying to add, and then we do a lot of seasonal, move our annual servicing and our maintenance plans in the spring and summer, and then we have our leaky chimney campaign. So when you add all those up, we really don't have too much seasonality, which has helped us. The other thing about scaling that helps is it gives your people some kind of career path. Like, if you don't grow, then there's a stagnation that happens. There's good and bad about growth and staying the same. So, staying the same, you don't have as many headaches because your company gets better and better, and they get more and more mature, and they just know how you work, and you have less headaches. But also there's a stagnation that happens in your business, and people are like, there's nowhere to go. I don't want to just be this my whole life. I want to have an opportunity to move to this management position or this, new area or location. So For me, one of the main reasons we grow now, it's not to make Mark Stoner more money. It's to give the people another opportunity to have a better life for them. I'm good. I'm good. I could be done and I'm fine. It's not that anymore. It's really excitement about my whole company wanting something better for them, and I want to be the guy that helps make that happen.
You want to make your business better? Make it about your people, not about you.
That's such a great line. That's exactly right.
And so we talked about it. I even talked about it with Boomer last week, and everyone who's working with me knows, and I might have mentioned it when we were on Surefire Live, that we have our org chart, but we started our career advancement chart and how we're doing all our training, became a Surefire client and different programs. And we are in the middle, me and John, my GM, we've designed our apprenticeships, our craftsmen, and our mastery. And since we have already these people, and we have some people, we're going to still make them do the apprenticeship stuff, and we're going to give them a novice craftsman title right away. And at that, and then we've also designed it to where it's financially where their finances are, and of course it goes down to, the more you advance in this chart, we have it organized for pay, and we're, as soon as you make master after being here at least 5 or 6 years, we haven't got there yet. Mm-hmm. You're going to be at least 100,000 plus person for us.
It's a path they can see, right?
And so here's what I'm going to tell you. And I may have told this before, maybe even last podcast. Forgive me, everybody, if I'm going to tell it again. But so we debuted this, and some of my clients took off with it. And I think I even said, everybody, a gentleman that I coach, he did it. He needed to find a couple new employees. And so part of his process, and we were working on it, I said, well, use this to help find better employees too. Let them see the vision, right? It's not just you telling. What's it like when you talk to someone in an interview? You're both salesmanship to each other, right?
Right.
You want them, hired, especially if they're a certified person from an industry that you're trying to bring in. You are definitely interviewing them, but they're interviewing you too. Mm-hmm. And so he brought this to so we had the session, and this guy he doesn't wait. He's on it. He built his org chart and his career path chart and just the outline and showed these three, he was only looking for two, showed three guys this. The interview turned into, what more can I do to start here?
Wow.
It was, and he called me up as soon as he was done that day with that interview. He goes, I've never had an interview process like this.
Right. These
guys are begging for me to hire them. Of course, he hired all three, and even though he only needed two. But he saw the value in these guys and what they could bring to his business and culture. He hired three. And I haven't talked to him since he actually got COVID. And so he's okay though. But so we didn't have our session last week. I was dying to talk to him last week to see how it's at least started out with. But when you present everybody this vision and then back it up and do it, obviously it's not like nothing worse than starting a system and you put it out there and no one works it. You don't make it accountable and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah. What else can we can keep going. I mean,
on the vision part, one of the things a lot of people talk about is they have a hard time getting employees to come in, have a hard time getting buy-in, have a hard time getting them to even have something. I've gone to consult with other companies, and there's literally nowhere for the people to go. Like, they come in, they're going to be apprentice and then a chimney sweep in our case, but apprentice and then a pool installer, apprentice and then, like, you need to build, like, I saw your system. I think you put it up on Facebook. I think it was one of John Caesar's things, and you said, here's our thing. I thought that was brilliant. And it's simple, but it's a step process. Well, we used to have it this way. You came in, you were apprentice, and then when you passed the certification test and ran with us for whatever we determined when you became the chimney sweep, and that was it.
You're done.
You're done. Like,
just go make money.
That's it for life. So, like, it does not. You will not get good people and keep good people if you don't, as the leader, set the vision and set the path for achievement and have some scorecards and scoreboarding for the people to go along with it. You came to our shop, we got huge scoreboards that people can see what's expected, what you need, the bad stuff, the good stuff, the safety stuff. And people need to know the score of this game called business. And a lot of people don't play it like a game. They just like come into work, work your tail off, go home every day.
So let's bring this to if you're listening, you're an owner, how in the heck do I do this? So here's what's great about this. So I actually had one of my other clients go, we're just, like you just said, we're just chimney sweeps. How can I give them a vision and how am I going to afford that?
Right.
And I looked at him, it's like, well, where were you at when you first started this business and what did you know when you did it? And he's like, well, I knew nothing. And what do you know now? 10 years later. And where are you at? He goes, yeah, we're at $3 million. And I said, yeah, okay. So now you do the same thing with your people and they start learning more trades, better masonry, better whatever, right? You just keep giving them certifications, fake certifications. I don't care.
Right. Job titles.
Just do something to keep their morale and going and educating them. The numbers fall in line. I can't sit there and say it'll work, except for I know it'll work. I've watched it work. It's worked for me. Certainly it's worked for you.
Yep.
And it's like, as you keep putting more time and effort into your employees, the sales takes care of itself.
Well, also one of the ways to keep a happy business, keep a happy culture is progress. Yeah. Like if your people can see progress of any type, either the big progress of the company, even progress of other people, an opportunity for progress for themselves, that helps your culture more than anything. Stagnation will kill you. A negative culture is the worst thing you could possibly have in a business. Yeah. But man, progress, some type of progress, report progress of the company, transparency in your numbers, helps with everybody being on board because everybody wants to be part of something that's winning and working.
Yeah. That's such a great point too. Because, when you, most people, we've been to the businesses that, we've had that growth and we've had that. And when you start watching people around you take part in it, you then have to recognize that they have ownership of that too. And you've got to recognize it to them.
Right.
Not just, we're, I'm the owner and we're great and everything else. Then you go to work and it's like, you don't ever say thank you and do that. Like I watched you walk around Ashbusters yesterday and I'll tell you, so I'm going to call myself out here. Mm-hmm. So we walked around. You're a fun guy, right? And everyone, you see that, you portray that. And I'm a sergeant at times. And I had Fazy come to Mike Fazy. I guess you introduced him on your podcast. So Mike Fazy, he's one of my clients. He's not shy to say that, I hope. Anyway, he came to visit me a few months back, and we have a new fireplace door division we're trying to roll out, and there was something that so I walked in with Mike, and we walked in, I say hello to everybody, and it was real Mark Stoner-ish at first, and then I saw something wrong, and I guess I went ape shit on everybody, and I didn't even know it, and then we left, and me and Mike had a great couple more days, and it wasn't until months later. And Mike we were just talking, bullshit during our time, and Fazy goes, yeah, when I watched you walk around and blow up your business when we walked in, and I was like, what? I got real, like, what do you mean I blew him? And he goes, yeah, you blew him up. And I'm like, no, I did. And so I've made it just a huge, I've consciously, because I don't go there much, I've consciously gone back to try to right that wrong a little bit, to be, because that's not me normally. I like to, go in there and smiles and everything else, but, it is what it is. So you are the director of your culture. And so, and
well, if you're not, somebody else will be.
Yes.
You have to drive your culture, or somebody else will get a hold of it, and it won't be the culture you want. And I had to learn that a hard way, because I had a guy that was pretty, like, kind of a leader among the guys, and it started to become his culture. And I did not want his culture. He was not a good person. Now, he was a good technician.
Yeah.
But as far as personal life and culture, and he started, like, whenever we need somebody to work, he's like, oh, I got a guy. And all of a sudden it started building his kind of thing, a little ball inside my company. And I've worked with other companies that happened to them too. Like, the owner checked back a little bit, and then they brought in a person to hire people. And then all of a sudden the company became his guys. And if there's ever a division, you need to be the driver of your culture if you're good at it. If you're bad at it, hand it off to somebody else and get the heck out of the way. But you got to have a good culture. Mike Bodart, our friend, said, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
And man, you can have all the strategy in the world, but if you don't have a good culture to push it through, culture can just get everything done or fixed or figured out if everybody understands what's allowed and what, like the thought of this is how we do it here at Master Services, this is how we do it at Ashbusters. Everybody understands that and buys into it. That's your culture. That's who you are. When stuff hits a fan or when you're celebrating, like we had a guy come in 2 days ago that's from another chimney company. We're interviewing him for a new division. And we have a morning meeting. We're all picking on each other and having fun and laughing and seriously laughing. It wasn't for this guy because he was watching us. We have a good time.
Yep.
He said, man, I want to work here. He said, this is different. He goes, genuinely, I walked around and watched for anybody being mad, anybody having side conversations. He goes, you guys are
family.
happy.
You're family.
Yeah. I said, it's not perfect here. There's mornings it can be rough, but yeah, I don't want to work in a crappy place. Nobody does. So it's up to me to foster it. It's a shadow of the leader. If I come in and hammer, they're going to hammer. If I come in and praise, they're mostly going to praise.
And typically when I walk into my business, I don't do all that. So it was really crazy that I did that with one of my clients, but normally I go in there and I talk to everybody and I get all this good feed. So I'll tell you, we're bringing in Jim Brewer to do our safety class. And Jim's like, give me the warnings. Like, it's so hard to get everybody to wear those helmets. So hard to get everybody to do the ropes. It's so hard, blah, 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 right? And you've been through that, I think,
it's
right?
Hard,
yeah. And so, I'm preparing everybody already. And I had my my best tech, Richard, who's worked for me for years. He's a former cop that didn't want to be a cop anymore. And he's a little bit of a C type, kind of real dry, but he'll laugh and stuff. But they were doing the air ducts for the first time at my house on Wednesday, and John, I have been telling the management team about the ladder stuff and to tell everybody, the ropes and the helmets, and he hasn't been portraying it to the people.
Right.
And I thought he had. And so I said to Richard, I said, aren't you excited to get the ropes and the stuff? And he goes, what are you talking about? And I looked over at John, and John's like kind of looking at me, oh shit. And I said, Richard, I need because everybody looks up to Richard. He knows everything in the business. He's great. He's the perfect guy, right? And so I looked at Richard and said, I need you on board with this. I need your culture that you bring to this. Everyone knows that if you're on board, and we have mine and John's culture there. But Richard is definitely, people, Richard will have someone come train with him. And he'll tell us they always go with him. He'll just tell us right away, get rid of this guy.
Right.
And we don't need this guy. Yeah, just this guy's not for us. Mm-hmm. And I said to Richard, I said, I need you on board with this helmet thing and this. And he goes, okay. And he's not going to get excited. He goes, okay.
Well,
so
yeah, and that's you're going to have a culture shift. Yeah. Like you're going to move into a culture of safety, which we were a culture of sales and service, and then to switch your culture to safety first and then sales and service. Although safety does help your sales, and it also helps your culture. The people feel that you care about them, their safety, going home every day, not getting hurt, not risking their lives so much. This is a dangerous job, and so this safety culture that you're getting ready to implement to me was the hardest thing I ever implemented as a change. And we had to slap hands, we had to penalize people for not wearing their safety gear. We had to have safety checks. We had to go out, and when guys did something stupid, we had to write them up, or we had to give them 3 days off, or we literally had to, guys, we are serious about this. And one of the sayings I say a lot is that in the chimney business, we talk to customers all day long about being safe. Hey, you've got to do this to be safe. Well, you don't want to burn that fireplace because it's unsafe. Yet we put our employees in unsafe situations, and we don't do all the safety things that we we're telling customers they need to be safe, yet we're not doing safety in our own company. So I don't want to be a hypocrite either. So if we're talking safety across the board. So let's be safe.
And as we implement this, I've got this. So anyone who is a chimney company and I talked about it. And I think I typed this to you guys in your last week that you had on Surefire Live. Is that so my system to accountability is, they have to take the after pictures.
Right.
Well, they're gonna have the helmet on, and they're gonna have the harness stuff on, and they're gonna have the rope over the roof, right? Mm-hmm. That's got to be in the picture.
Yeah.
And they're gonna do it. And what's so good about the culture that I've derived in my company is everything is picture driven so that we can manage if it's right. And my assistant manager, Brian, goes through every job and scrutinizes the pictures to make sure it's done right. And he's not perfect at it because it's a lot of jobs.
Sure.
So he glances over stuff and stuff. But when it comes to this safety thing we're going to do, that you're going to want the and I need it for advertising too. I need the pictures of the helmets and the harnesses for that. But it's going to be part of our system. I actually have a couple of employees listening to this now for the first time, or probably hearing this. And so, get ready, guys.
Well, I think you keyed on something too that was important for me is I need to put somebody else in charge of it in the business, not me. Yeah. If you're the owner and you're trying to roll out some of these new things, you're probably not the person to be in charge of it. You're the person to maybe manage it from a distance, as you said, 30,000 feet view. Mm-hmm. But you need to put somebody in charge of it. And for my company, I had a guy that was already very serious about safety. He's an older guy. He had done ropes training, and he was very much about safety. So I'm like, Tim, you're the guy. You're going to be our guy. And then he became the guy that worked with Jim. He became the guy who got the equipment and made sure everybody was being trained up. And we just did respirator safety and fit testing last week. But put somebody, if you're listening to this and you're a business, you're like, oh man, this is going to cost me so much money to implement a safety program. And I was talking to Jim. Jim's like, it's about $2,000 a guy. Well, we work about 200 days a year, so it's $10 a day. You can find it if you're serious about it. And you're getting ready to invest, quite a bit in it. But in the long term, you don't have to do that every year. And two, it raises your prices a little bit, and it covers the safety program and covers your tail and makes your place a better place to work.
I tell you, when Jim said, when you asked him that on the Surefire last week,
when I asked him
when you asked him how much it was a guy, and then he came out with the 2,000. I wish I could have seen everybody's faces because I knew from I already knew that.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that like a month and a half when I started talking to Jim.
Right.
Because kind of like everyone thinks that, you're going to fix my chimney, it's $1,000, right?
Yeah, $500.
So my thought was, before I met him, thinking the Home Depot bucket's $150, yeah. Right? So I'm thinking, okay, maybe $400 or $500.
Yeah.
And Jim's like, well, we can get it down to $1,500, but that's going to get you the bare minimum, so it's really $2,000. And I went, okay, I have 30 guys climbing on roofs. That number just went astonishing high.
Yeah, you weren't ready.
So I will tell you this: if you're a small chimney company, the $4,000 to $6,000 you got to expend is nothing.
Yeah,
because as you grow and you get to my 26 years into it, you got to hire Jim now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're going to get a loan.
Yeah, I did. Start early, start often. It's a little bit all the time. Yeah. It adds to the beginning of bringing on a new person. That's why you want to, train them well and get good people. But it just is one of those hard first experiences and hard first culture changes. But after that, it kind of just becomes who you are.
Yep. And and like you and me, we're both marketing salespeople. I'm already on the marketing side of this in my mind, waiting for the pictures, waiting to, have him, because we're setting it up where I think we're doing 13 lines off the rafters to teach them how to do some stuff.
Nice.
And then we're going to houses, and I'm actually going to hire a professional photographer.
Well, yesterday, my friend is in the roofing business, and he just filmed a commercial, and actually they filmed it partially at my house, but I was watching his commercial. And in his commercial, he had guys on the roof that weren't tied off, guys that were, taking roofing material and throwing it to the ground. I said, dude, you got to get rid of all that. You better not put that on social media. You better not put that on TV. You've got to show full safety on all of your stuff. And that's just the professional look. Because if you come out now in this world without safety and without that part of your business, your people are being safe, you're gonna get hammered. You're gonna look bad, and that's the last thing any of us want as a business owner, is to look bad or look like we don't care.
So last summer, Jonathan Hart, who's a roofing company in Dallas, Hart Construction, he was on my podcast, so I'll call him out. So I called him up. I think it was before the podcast he was on, and I said, "Hey, can you start leaving, the anchors up there for us so that we can, connect to them while we're working?" He goes, "No." And I'm like, "Come on, man. I mean, you're already up there, do it." And he's like, "Yeah, well, you're going to replace the, he got all roofer on me, right? You're going to replace the shingles and all this or fix them right?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe, but I'm not guaranteeing that I don't mess up a shingle. I'm not a roofer, and that's what, we have to work something out." So we're pretty good buds, at least, he's actually an old neighbor of mine. So, we can pretty much say things to each other. And so I kind of left it at kind of not exactly how I wanted to leave the conversation. And so I was talking to him just 2 weeks ago. We had a little hailstorm in Dallas, and I called him up and texted him, and I said, "Is this going to be a real storm?" And he writes some smart alecky thing back. And I said, "Okay, I got something for you. I really need you, if you're not going to do the anchors for us up there, and I need you to hire us before you put the roof on." He goes, "No problem." And I'm like, "Why in the hell did you say that last year?" And so we've gone to talking to all our roofers, and they're like, "Why can't you just have us there?" They have installed the day before. And we have had no blowback that I know of so far when we've done that. And now we're not climbing on the new roofs at all. Right. And so we're climbing on the old roofs, which is great. Yeah. And so we can now just screw in and even leave them there if we wanted to for the measurements, and then come back and just leave the stuff there.
That's good.
And we've just started it, so I don't know how far we've gotten into it, but that's what where we're going to, just to have everything. And I don't honestly think it's gonna, like, the installers they don't 1 or 2 jobs a day anyway. So for me, I mean, it's not going to change my production. It's going to change my sales. Right. Because we only have one guy going out together alone. So he's going to have to be limited to how many he can do. But when you process this out, and I can look at this as a marketing or as a homeowner, that guy just threw a rope over my house, tied off, had a helmet on, comes in looking all more professional, talks to me about my chimney, and he's all safe. And this other guy pulls what your roofer did, just climbs up there, monkeys around like we've done for 26 years, comes down, and it doesn't look anything like that guy. Who are you gonna? I mean, in your mind, who looks better?
It's almost like when you watch an old football game or an old hockey game and they're not wearing any protective gear. You're like, "Oh my gosh, how stupid were they?"
Leather helmet versus these.
It's just the future of what we're doing. If you're in the service business, you've got to do all those things. You're not going to go out of business doing it. You're not going to go broke doing safety. You're going to have a stronger culture. You're going to have a better. You're going to make more money actually from it.
I know it's kind of the second half has turned into a safety thing, but but we're passionate about that,
culture.
Right?
We were talking culture, and this is a kind of a culture shift. Now, there can be other culture shifts. I can tell you one real quickly. When we went from hourly to commission, that was a big culture shift, and it was rough. When we went to attendance policy shift of being there on time and all these things, like this is just a shift that is current, but back to the original point, you will have to manage your culture. You have to manage what your business feels like. And if you don't, it will become something you don't want. So we're talking safety now, but it's going to be, there's always these kind of culture shifts that you have to manage.
Well, you grow that big, ugly gorilla that it's hard to now, beat him up and make it right? I mean, I've been there. I've had it. I've watched other people. I've helped people shift it. And it's so much better if you're a younger company. Yeah. If you're feeling it, live it.
Yeah.
I mean, because you know how many times you remember growing your business, and especially your first 17 people.
you knew you had a couple bad people.
Oh, of course.
You knew it.
I just didn't want to fire them because I needed them.
Yeah, well, you did.
Yeah. And I felt lucky they even worked for me. I mean, who wants to be a chimney sweep? And so now, we got a big group of people that love doing this industry. And I've said it a bunch, but I think, just kind of wrapping it up, but I think people love being an expert in something that is rare. It's almost like you got a superpower. Chimney codes. How this whole thing works, which the majority of people don't. I think there's a very attractive, addictive thing to that, and that comes from education. That comes from culture, who we are, what we're about, what they're doing for people and safety. And so I love this industry. I think it's unique. I think we're on the verge of just tip of the iceberg. I think this industry can be so much bigger than it is if we run better businesses. And that's why, for you as a coach, I think you and what you're doing is so critical for this industry that we need to grow up. We need to grow up and be more, I don't know if it's sophisticated, or run better businesses, not just the hippies, the one-man truck operations with the top hat and trying to figure out, that's great if you like that. But in general, if our business is going to survive and grow, we need to run better businesses.
So you guys said something just a minute ago, as we're sitting there dealing with our businesses, there's that mindset of we're only This isn't just chimneys. This is a lot of other people too. We're only so I can only achieve this.
Interesting.
And they really, they feel they've gone into something because they're a technician, right? And they like doing what they're doing and they don't really know how to grow their business, but they limit themselves to this mindset of, well, I can only do and be this big because my industry is at this.
Yep.
And it's but here's the funny thing. They think that, yet then you got the guys out there like you doing almost $10 million. You got other people, in other industries, like my guy that was a landscaper who is a big business, but, he never thought he could barely get 10 million and busted into 14 and he could be a $50 million business in Dallas. And he's trying to go there. That's his goal. And so a lot of these people that start working with me, they're in other businesses, not just chimney. But chimney too, especially, they're smaller and they're like, and they always like try to apologize to me. Well, I'm just in this little market.
Right.
And I can only do this. And they limit to me when they talk to me, and I'm just like, what? If you're in a limited, let's say you're in only a $500,000 or even $300,000 people town. And they're like, well, I can only do $300,000 or $400,000. I'm like, I totally disagree. Right. I mean, I know you. Maybe you don't have the $10 million company in the very small markets, but I mean, you can definitely be in a smaller city and get there.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's opening your eyes to other avenues of revenue, growing it, having just a better running business. I've seen several $1 million companies. I know a $3 million company in a population of 225,000 people.
Yeah.
And I mean, runs a big business because he, does a lot of, masonry and building and outdoor kitchens. And so it just depends on what you want. Most people want just a little bit bigger than they are. If you ask them, what do you want? Just a little bit more than I've got. Very few people go, man, I want a lot bigger and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. That's different. I'm not saying it's the right answer, but in our industry, most people are pretty happy with their size and they think maybe one or two more trucks. I think you got to pick where you want to go first. And I think, Chad, you're the guy that helps people with that. Where are we going to end up? And let's back into it. Same thing with how much money you make as the owner. How much money do you want to make per year? And then back your prices and back everything into it so it results in how much money you make, right? Everybody does it the other way. Like, I hope I'll get the money at the end. If you forecast it forward, you can't say, hey, I want $1 million on a $1.2 million business. But, realistically, what's your number you want first and then back it in? We work 200 days a year. I need to make X amount of dollars per day. That means we do 4 jobs a day. I need to make X off of it. Like, everybody doesn't plan where you want to go at the end. They try to just work harder in the day. So, with somebody like you or a coach or a mentor, setting the vision is how you get anything in this business.
Yeah, I set vision, not goals. See, that freaks people out. Like, right. They're all his goals, We talked last night. I don't do business plans.
You don't?
No, yeah. Because they shift, they pivot so much that it's what you think you want to do today, and as we start guiding you through your business and life, it's not even close to where you want to be in a year from now. You've pivoted to so much mindset and culture that I don't like them. And I'm not saying they're not good. I'm just saying for me to help you, as I can't stick to a structured plan. Like I was telling you last night, I don't have a program. There's no program here.
Right. Oh, as coaching. You don't have a coaching program.
I don't have a program.
Right.
I start with your biggest stuff and we work down, or we start, it depends on what you want to work on. I don't have this sheet of paper or even a booklet to say, we're going to start here, and at the end of this booklet, you're going to have this.
Oh, wow. That's good. I love that you don't have that. I've been through those programs.
Yeah. And matter of fact, one of my clients I hired, my discovery call with him, he's like, so when are we going to start? We're going to do a business plan, right? And all this. And I've actually fired 3 coaches because, the business plan didn't work and this. And I went, no plan. And he's like, oh, and I still work with this guy. He goes, I love that. We're going to work on you and your business at that point of what it needs. What you need today, even though you have these issues or whatever, in 6 months, be different. It's going to be different because now you're working on your business.
For sure. And who could have seen COVID coming and all that? You could take any business plan and you throw it out the window. Who saw 2008 coming? Who saw, who knows? So I think the vision that helps you just get through the grind, like I just think it's the grind. Like, you're not going to stop me from getting there because you threw something in my way. I'm still going there. I'm just going to learn to get over it, under it, around it, through it. But that's what vision does for you. Like, I'm just going to get there. And it's not contingent on a certain person in your business or contingent on certain things happening. It's just like, this is what's going to happen. And then that's how we build these bigger companies, or these companies that end up doing what we want them to do. It's not at all by accident.
It's funny. You just mentioned some bad things that happen in our world that you can't plan for. What about the good things? Like, we had Harvey hit Houston, 5-6 years ago. Houston was booming, right, chimney wise. And it's not a big chimney, market.
Yeah.
It's a huge conglomerate city. And there's some good businesses there and chimney stuff. But I'm saying, I never could see Houston doing what it was doing, or it could be at that time. My vision was limited. And when Harvey hit and everything, it was like, oh, wow. Everybody was flooded. The chimneys were having to be, taken out, rip and replaces. And then a lot of masonry stuff was, done, and waterproofing. And that was a 2-year storm for us.
Yeah, those natural disasters can be really good for us. Like, we did a ton of work after Katrina. We're in Nashville, and you wouldn't think Nashville we'd have anything from Katrina, but what happened was they couldn't get contractors in New Orleans, so a lot of people were reaching out to, and we got contacted from some pretty big homeowners and business owners, said, we'll pay you to come down here. Please come down and rebuild our chimneys, And we did almost $500,000 in there just in Katrina work from Nashville. And same with the 2010 flood here. And we just had another flood. So that's a great point. There's unseen positive, but the point is to get in business, build a good business that can just handle stress. Like, how good are you at handling stress? If you can't handle stress, you shouldn't be in business.
Yeah. The anxiety, the podcast I told you about with COVID, it's called The Anxiety of an Entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. My podcast, if you guys go on and look down earlier, it's one of my most popular podcasts when I just freak out. But yeah, Mark, I know we can keep going. Let's go have a beer. Let's go have a beer or something. Maybe we should just have a reality show on me and you. Well, thanks for coming on, man. We're a 1-2 punch. We didn't even talk about the 1-2 punch on my podcast. Mm-hmm. Just to kind of talk about it. Tell everybody what you do for your consulting side of your business. That I want people to go to that, and then I can help them after that. Go ahead, take it. Tell them what you do.
For years, I had a lot of people come into my business, kind of like you did. Came over, visited me. I showed you some stuff. But some people stayed for a couple of days, and I literally took them through and did it. And my friend called it Mark Stoner University. Well, after I kind of went through all my friends showing them what we were doing, other people were coming and I didn't know them. So, and one of the frustrating things was when you did it all for free, they could spend 2 days and not do a dang thing with it. And I got frustrated with that. I'm like, I'm going to spend 2 days with you. You better go home and do something with this. And they weren't. So I then turned into Blue Collar Gold University. I wrote a book called Blue Collar Gold. And I happened to be on a TV show a few years ago on CNBC called Blue Collar Millionaires. And they highlighted the book and it became a bestseller on Amazon briefly, like for 2 minutes. Well, then I made this program because a lot of people are like, how do I learn more about it? So I made a program called Blue Collar Gold University. And I'm not a coach like you are. So what I did was you came in for 2 days. I work with you. I show you everything we do for 1 day. And on day 2, I build out a 3 to 5 year business plan with you of what you want. Just when to hire people, what size you want to be at, what gross number you need to be at, when you might need to move buildings, when to buy trucks and build divisions and that kind of stuff. And then you got a 3 to 5 year plan to go home with. Literally step by step what you should be doing. And so I've had hundreds of companies come through. I love doing it. It's a one-on-one thing. So, and I let people bring up to 5 people from their business at the same time. And because it's great to go back and everybody's on the same page and rowing in the same direction. But what I thought was great about what you do, and now that we know each other, that I could kind of hand it off and they could show you, hey, here's the plan that we developed. Help us, you ask them the questions and help them actually make that go through for them. More likely to be successful than me just handing them a big, 5 years of work to do. Some of them, and I have had great success. I've had so many companies come back and say, man, this was exactly what we needed. But I think your monthly or however often you do coaching with them helps them to stay on track and helps them stay accountable.
And see, that's like I said, and I want you to understand this, everybody. I don't do the business plans because that's not what I'm going to do. That doesn't mean you don't have one.
Right.
And you're giving them an outline to help them out, to give them the vision of a business plan. I mean, they're going to achieve your blueprint,
right?
And I will help them do it. I don't even care to look at it. Just because I want to help you and you stay focused to your business, and ultimately that plan will succeed.
Well, I think they could probably take my plan and pick a spot for it and say, hey, this is what we need to work on.
Yeah.
And then you take that part of the plan that they're stuck on or they need to work on once you've asked your discovery questions. But I think what we do at my place too is kind of, they call it stretching the rubber band. Your rubber band's this, and then I'm going to just, it's like drinking from a fire hydrant. There's so much, and you're going to get stretched. And by the time you're done in 2 days, you're going to be going, man, I'm excited, but I'm dead tired.
Where do I go?
Right.
What do I do? How do I start?
Yeah. So I think that's very much needed in our business. And if you want to grow your business, the fastest way to do it is reach outside of yourself. Don't try to learn it all yourself. Don't try to come up with all the great ideas.
Yeah.
They're already out there. All the ideas are already out there. They've been developed. You just got to find the people that have them to speed up your path.
Exactly. It's funny, so we got me and you, and I'm going to throw this out there, so hopefully this gets a bug out there. Alan, you need to be 3.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 punch, guys. It's us.
Well, because if you think about it, and you just brought that up before the podcast, so I can show you where to go. You can show them how to do it and develop. But if you don't have sales and we have all these plans, but your people aren't selling or stepping over millions of dollars, you may never get there, but 2, it takes you so much longer. And Alan's process of getting your people to help you implement your plan seems like a great idea.
Yeah. And so, Alan, come on, man, we're here. Me and Mark, we're here. We're across. We're here for you. Let's get you going.
Yeah.
And so, Alan's great. So, guys, this Mark Stoner.
You were if you want to contact me, Mark at markstoner.com. I have a website, markstoner.com. You can check it out. I have a Blue Collar Gold podcast where we talk about building businesses, like with Chad. And me and Chad have become fast friends in the last few months. And it's exciting to have another like-minded, person trying to help people. And Thank you for reaching out to me when you did.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We haven't had a disagreement at all about anything yet, have we?
It's
going to be fun when we do.
We're rolling in the same direction.
It's going to be funny when we have one little thing that we go, that's not right. I'm like this.
Maybe sports teams or something.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that.
We're going to hockey game tonight.
We are going to hockey game tonight. I'm excited. So, okay, guys. Well, that's that. I'm going to end it like he says. That's our time here. And so thank you guys, everybody. And again, if you need to get a hold of Mark, just rewind it a little bit, listen to what he said. So thanks, and we'll talk to y'all later.